Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Audit Committee. I'm Councillor Khan, Chair of this committee. First of all, I would like to apologise for the delayed start of this meeting. This is due to network issues, but hopefully we won't have any other foreseen issues during this meeting. I would like to welcome everyone from the public gallery, but there is no one in the public gallery, so we'll move on. For those in the building, there are no scheduled fire drills tonight, so in the event of a fire alarm sounding, please leave the building via the main spiral staircase and through the main reception doors. Once outside, please turn left and make your way to the fire assembly point located beyond the multi-storey car park on Exchange Road. If you are unable to use the stairs, please wait in the council chamber and you will be guided by a member of staff to the evacuation lift. This meeting is being live streamed via the council's YouTube channel. Please note that there is no comment functions as part of this webcasting. The council is the data controller and will retain the data collected during the webcast. This will be done in accordance with the council's published retention policy. Councillors are reminded to take note of what is being displayed on the screens in the room, as this shows what is currently being recorded and webcast. Cameras are currently set to capture you in seated positions, so please remain seated when speaking. You can request to speak as usual by raising your hand. Speak by pressing the button with the face on it, and the microphone will go green when you are live. It is important to remember that when you are not speaking, to please turn your microphone off. Committee members and officers are reminded to be mindful that given this meeting is being live streamed, any comments and responses given must not contain exempt information. When referring to a page within a report, it would be helpful if councillors reference the page number of the agenda pack rather than the page number of the individual reports. So on to the apologies for absence for the meeting. We have received an apologies from Councillor Hellier. Have we received any other apologies?
Everyone else is present, Chair.
Okay, great. So now we are moving on to the disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest which councillors wish to declare? Okay, great. So now we are moving on to the approval of the minutes. Does the committee approve the minutes of the meeting of the Audit Committee held on the 2nd of September 2025? Okay, great. So we would be moving on to public question time, but there is no public in the gallery, so we will be moving on. So the next item on the agenda is the audit results report, year ended in 31st of March 2005. So we'll be moving. Oh, okay. Well, due to unforeseen circumstances, aka one of our officers being stuck in traffic, we will be moving on from that and coming back to that later. So we will be moving on to the update on counter fraud. So we'll move on to this one. Yeah. Okay. So I will now ask Stuart Small, Deputy Fraud Manager, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This report is shorter than normal, as I'm sure you're aware. It's only about 7 or 8 weeks. It's for the reporting period of 21st of August 2025 to the 31st of August, and all outcome figures are taken from closed cases. The recommendation is that the committee note the report. If we go down to 4.1, the case types. These are all open cases at the moment. As you can see, it's increased slightly from the last reporting period, up to 46 cases, 7 council tax support, 30 housing cases, 1 fly tip and 8 right to buy cases are open at the moment. If we go to table 4.2, during the reported period, the team have achieved the following. So they've prevented 1 right to buy and 4 housing allocations have been prevented during this period. There have been 0 properties recovered during this period. I'd just like to point out, I think that's the first time we've ever had that, but there is a reason that will be made clear in the next report, because it's an open case at the moment. So we will go through that in the next report if that's okay. The total savings for the period from the fraud team is £147,200, and year to date it is just over £1 million at £1,033,500. These are based on Crawley's own figures from homelessness that we estimate. If we go down to table 4.3, this is the council tax and business rates. This is where our inspectors find either new properties, new non-domestic rates. In period for council tax, they have £276,117.90 new council tax that they have found. For the year, it's just under £500,000 at £456,791.90. Non-domestic rates, which is business rates, in period is £2,956,363.78, and for the year 25-26 so far is £4,263,863.78. This is the part where I normally go through a significant case for the councillors. We haven't done that this month. What we've focused on is the new homes bonus. This is our council tax inspectors who work in our team. The new homes bonus is where the government give the council a certain amount of money for all new properties that go into the system. This can be new build properties, properties coming out of the long-term empty list, as long as it's gone into being occupied. The money that we get, I think, is averaged to Band D property, so it's quite a lot of money for council tax wise. What we do is our inspectors every year, they go through the long-term empty property, and then they will visit all those properties to see whether they've gone back into service. This year they had 190. They visited every single one at least once, and they were managed to get 97 that had been put back into service. This actually equates to a save or money that the council will get from central government of around 210,000. This is money that we would have lost if we hadn't have done this service, or this action. Our inspectors do this every year. This may be the last year. We're waiting from central government to tell us. But it's something that we do every year, and this is quite a significant amount that we got. That is quite a short report, unfortunately, for you. If there's any questions, I'd like to answer them.
Okay, well, thank you for that report. I will now open this up to discussion. I saw that Councillor Belbin was first, so if you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. It may be short, but it's very sweet. It's nice to read about how much savings your small team make for the council. Well done. I just have one query about these empty houses that are being brought back in or have been bought. I'd have thought with our new policy of double council tax on empty properties that people would be quite keen to report the fact that it's back in. So I'm just a bit confused on that side. Thank you, but I'm sure you're going to have an explanation for me.
It's been a very weird year for this report for us, because normally we would rush to go and get them all back in, but if we're charging double, then there is a reason for not finding them, if you like. However, the inspectors will always go and do the visit. It has to be correct. It can't just be that way. And said some of these properties they go and visit may have been long-term empty for a couple of years, and they've gone out and found them sold and people, a family living in there. So it's the long-term property empty list. Yeah, it's just unfortunate the way it goes.
So have we got that property down as a debtor on our rates? You know, if it's been empty and there's been nobody to get hold of to chase that debt, to then know that it's now occupied or whatever.
I believe so. I'd have to check with council tax to see how much, because obviously we're bringing it back into service, back into the valuation. We would be, I presume, I'd have to double check, but taking it back to when that property was sold and when someone moved in, because they would have failed to tell us that they'd moved in if it was still on the long-term property. So it is something that we should be doing. I will double check that for you.
Thank you.
That's okay.
All right, do we have any other questions from the committee? Okay, great. Before we move on, I guess I'll just like to note, you know, thank you for your work, and, you know, I've been on this committee for a long time, and the amount of work you've done over the years I've been on the committee is noted, so thank you. So we're moving on to the next item. Oh, yeah. So all committee members have had the opportunity to speak. The recommendation is that the report is noted. So do we all agree with the recommendation that the report is noted?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So moving on to... Okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's all right. Okay, great, yeah. So we will now be moving on to the internal audit progress report, which will start on page 199 of the agenda pack. So I will ask Vanessa Anthony, the audit manager for Southern Internal Audit Partnership, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly before I introduce the progress report, can I just introduce Keith Phillips, who is Iona's replacement to the committee. So he will be the Chief Internal Auditor for Crawley Borough Council. Just wanted to introduce him so you know who he is for future meetings. So the progress report goes to the end of October 2025. Just a couple of key sections to draw the committee's attention to. So section 5 is the rolling work programme, which is on page 205 and 206. Just to flag up that whilst the partnership has recruited, it's just to be transparent around some of the delays that we've had in delivering quarter 2 and quarter 3 audits in the plan. The good news is that we have successfully scoped all of the quarter 3 audits, but just for transparency and to comply with the standards, we just needed to flag that we have had some resourcing issues. But we have scoped all of the quarter 3 audit reviews. There are currently 9 reviews that are in progress, and we have gone on since the report was published to finalise Crawley Growth Station Gateway, council tax and an NDR. So we've had progress since the report was published for yourselves as well. Section 8 on page 207, just to flag up some of the amendments to the audit plan since the last progress report. So there has been a follow-up audit of the Legionella compliance review because that was a no assurance audit. So we do plan to do a follow-up in quarter 4. And following the latest check-in with CMT, 2 audits have been removed from the plan, so Treasury Management and Human Resources, and we'll pick up those reviews when we do the annual planning for the 26-27 review to see when is a good time to undertake those reviews. Section 10 of the report, which is on page 208 and 209 of the papers, lists any limited or no assurance reviews. There has been 1 limited assurance review for food safety, and a summary of those observations has been listed on those pages. And as always, with all of our audit reviews, we will continue to monitor the action to address those control concerns going forwards. The other section is section 11, which is on page 210. This shows the live audits with the priority of those actions. just to report that there has been a positive movement around those high priority actions, which have reduced since the last report. That's mainly down to some of the compliance review actions being addressed, as well as driver safety. So a few of those historical high priority actions have been cleared, and we did get an update in and around the parking and enforcement review, where again some of those high priority actions have already been addressed. There are only 6 overdue high priority actions, and the majority of those are across the compliance reviews. We've taken action with those, and we're meeting with the interim asset manager on a monthly basis until we get those historical compliance reviews fully actioned. The updates that we've had from the service are really positive, and hopefully by the next committee report, those historical compliance reviews will also be cleared. And the last part of the report, just to draw your attention to, is Annex 3, which is on page 219. Just in and around those first 3 performance indicators, as I suggested at the last committee, a lot of those performance indicators are static for the year, but performance indicator 1, 2 and 3 are the ones that I just want to flag up to you. So performance figures have increased slightly on the previous update, but are quite low. There are a number of reasons for that I just quickly wanted to run through. So the first is obviously connected to our resourcing of quarter 2 and 3. Those reviews are all, pretty much close to finalisation, but that has had an impact on the figures. Quarter 1 was a small portfolio with only a few audits in it, so the vast majority of performance will be at the end of 3 and going into quarter 4, where we've got a higher volume of audits. And we have had a couple of audit reports which were issued as draft but have taken a little while to finalise those. The good news is they are finalised now. 3 audit reports were finalised today, but because of the delays in getting those reports agreed, whilst it will improve performance figure 1, because we've missed those key dates that are set in the terms of reference, they won't have a positive impact on performance indicators 2 and 3. And going forward, we'll continue to work with directors to manage that the key dates that are set at the outset of an audit review are realistic on all fronts, so that we can get those reports issued in draft in a timely fashion, and then get officers' responses and management actions so that we can improve those performance figures. The other one to note is that internally, there's a slightly different reporting protocol for limited or no assurance reports, whereby those reports, as well as going to the service, also go to CMT for oversight of those high priority action areas. We don't adjust our key dates to align to that, because until we get to reporting stage, we don't know what the opinion is going to be. But again, that has a negative impact on the performance indicators, because we don't reset the clock. We have one measure, which unfortunately, if it requires CMT attention, we're never going to meet those performance dates. So it's just to flag that there are a number of reasons why those figures are never going to be 100% until the end of the annual year. But we are confident we will deliver the annual plan to be able to form the annual conclusion. Any questions?
Right, thank you for the presentation. I will now open this item for debate, so please indicate your hand if you wish to speak. Okay.
Me.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Bell.
Sorry, just say, I don't know whether it's relevant, but it might be nice to have it noted that the chair and I are meeting quarterly with our internal auditors, and I think I'm very grateful to them for giving us that time, because it does give us chance to raise things. And if other committee members want to feed a question in through us, we'll be willing to do that. And I think our next one, is it the 2nd of December, I think? Can't remember. No, it can't be because I'm away. It's somewhere early December. But I thought that was a brilliant step forward, and I thank you for your time giving us that opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, that's definitely a positive step forward for this committee. That extra time will be allocated, and yes, if any members do have anything to raise, then please email me and Tina, and we will get that sorted out. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just a few questions. It was a really kind of clear explanation as you went through the report. I found that really helpful. And you highlighted the issues that you had with staffing and the impact that had on delivery. I just wondered, like, what type of comfort you could give the committee that you now have sufficient staffing to deal with the reports that are upcoming.
So we have, as per section 4, we have successfully recruited across all of the vacancies that we had. So that's auditor, senior auditor, and we're currently going through a recruitment exercise for audit managers as well. The assurance we can give you is all of the quarter allocations have been allocated. We have 9 audits in progress that we will deliver, and we will go on to be able to deliver the annual assurance opinion for the committee it needs to come to, which I think is the July committee. So we have taken positive steps to get more resources on board, and we continue to work with the heads of service to use our resources when they're available to maximum capacity to get the audits delivered.
And if I could,
Oh yeah, sure.
yeah, just have I wondered if anybody was here to talk about the limited assurance of the food safety report, or no? Okay, well, so I read the limited assurance, and maybe it can come back to the next meeting on the food safety report. I think that was the one. I just wondered if you could give any update about the progress that's been undertaken since the audit's been completed, and the actions that have been developed, and what type of progress is being made, and what are the priorities, what the service will be tackling first.
So I think it's probably worth noting that I haven't seen at audit committees ordinarily where there's a no or limited assurance where an officer does attend, although I think it would be a really valid thing to take forward, just from the response we've received. So we obviously agree the management actions and do assess them to ensure that they will manage the risk going forward. What I can say is we have had an ongoing dialogue with the food safety team in and around some changes in the guidance and around the legislative requirements, but we have received sufficient actions that once those are addressed, we believe they will manage the risk. So they are looking at things like reviewing and producing some overarching procedures and guidance. They are looking at their approach in and around inspections and making sure that their records and their processes are aligned to the legislation. But further than that, it probably would require an officer response.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Yep, Councillor Ashraf, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is relevant here, but just wanted to ask, looking at the external audit reports and all that, and the outcome from that, I just wanted to know if you have planned any targeted reviews or financial close down or any property valuation arrangements or key accounting estimates to support a better external audit outcome, because there were quite a lot of areas of weakness identified there.
Thank you. So we haven't as yet, but what we will do, as we always do, is as part of the annual planning process for the 26-27 plan, we will have conversations with all of the heads of service. We will look at the risk registers and any other assurance pieces where we need to look to see if there requires any audit coverage due to the priorities of the risk. So at the moment, we haven't started that annual planning process. We are looking to undertake that hopefully in December to allow enough time to get the approvals for the annual plan, but we haven't considered that as yet, but we'll consider it as part of annual planning.
Go ahead.
And I'd just like to add to that obviously while we're doing that, excuse me, while we're doing that planning, we need to make sure that we don't duplicate the work that external audits are doing and waste resource in that environment. So, but if we catch up with external audit, we can actually feed that into our planning process with the officers from the council.
Okay, are there any other comments? Yep.
It's a comment stroke question thoughts
Yeah.
altogether. Thank you very much for the question you raised on the food limitation. I'm just wondering, I think is the next meeting the 16th of March? I'm wondering whether I know you said you'll update us on where we feel we're at with management changes, whether we might request somebody from that department come along.
I think we would support that, and our other audit committees that we attend across other partners, usually there is an officer to respond to members' questions. So I think we would support it. I don't know if it's worth, if there are any pressing questions as well, sending those through MES potentially to get those answered before the next committee.
Okay. Thank you. Yep.
Sorry, through yourself, Chair. I mean, I absolutely don't want to see officers hauled over the coals or anything, but if there is a limitation that's mentioned there, it would feel counterintuitive not to have people to come and discuss with yourselves and put what's being done to rectify that situation. So I would ask if it's possible through the Chair, whether we might see if that's possible or not at the next meeting.
Well, do you want an update on that specific issue?
I think if it's been identified as a limitation,
Sure.
And there are actions being in place, and we have been informed that other councils would normally have an officer present, if that's been the case, and hopefully it's going to be, this is what, everything's wonderful and it's perfect now, but I think it just would be appropriate to have it there.
I think, sorry it is relevant to this. I think we've had some staff changes within that department, because I was ringing on something else and I got somebody saying, oh, I'm having to cover a variety of things on environmental health, and she was on food safety. So I think they are a bit stretched at the moment. I think there's been one or two staff changes, and that is why I'm not defending the fact that we haven't got somebody here to talk to us, but I'm just saying that the staff may be under a lot of stress at the moment, because I think there's been one or two resignations, but I may be wrong. I know one has left, definitely.
Okay. Yep. Would you like to come in? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to confirm, this did go to CMT for consideration. And I think they'd probably welcome to come in because that department do a lot of really good work as well. Obviously, the sort of weaknesses were more around the procedures and the records and the processes, because apparently they're one of the few departments that actually completed their work programme for the year. So in some areas, they're doing really well across sort of West Sussex. And there's also a sort of contradiction in the guidance on how quickly you have to do your first visit. I'm not an expert in it, so I couldn't do it justice, but I'm sure they'd welcome the fact to be able to come in. You know, we had additional meetings with them. They've been sort of quite open and have taken the observations on board and have come up with reasonable, you know, management actions. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, I mean, by my personal view, they would be more than welcome to come here and to speak to the committee. So if that's something that can be addressed, that would definitely something that does need to be looked into. So thank you for raising that. It's actually a very good point. Are there any other speakers? Okay, great. So I guess I would just like to say thank you on the report. It's been useful to read through the priority actions and what is high priority and what's not. So an update on those in the future would be very, very useful. And I guess I will be following the progress of these actions. So thank you for that. Thank you. All committee members have had the opportunity to speak. There are 2 recommendations set out in the report, and I will deal with these separately. So recommendation 1 is that the report be received and that the internal audit progress report be noted. So is that agreed from the committee? Thank you. So that's agreed. So I move that the internal audit report be noted. Oh yeah, sure. So recommendation 2 is that the committee approves the adjustments to the internal audit plan 2025 to 2026. Is that approved? Okay, great. And before we move on, obviously, welcome, sir, to this committee. And I'd obviously like to say a public thank you to Iona, who was obviously very hardworking in the time that I worked with her, and she'll be very missed, and I wish her well on her future endeavours. Thank you. Yeah, so the next one is, yeah. Is it today, is it? Right, okay, we are moving on to the next item, and I do apologise for the altered agenda due to unforeseen circumstances. So we will now be moving on to the risk management update, which starts on page 2225 on the agenda pack, and I will ask Anna Pedlow, Corporate Performance Manager, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is obviously to provide the committee with an update on the action taken by corporate management team and our staff to mitigate strategic risks. Just to bring to your attention the updates since the last audit committee, which was the 2nd of September, and in particular there were a few points that the committee expressed, so just to draw your attention to those points. So under 7.2, which was in relation to risk 3, which is migration and asylum pressures. So at the last meeting, the committee expressed the view that the residual risk score should be 20 and not 16, as the council was limited in its ability to mitigate the risk. Corporate management team have reviewed this risk, and it has been updated to reflect the changing landscape, which has seen an increase in the inherent and residual risk scores. So there's been a change on both scores. So in particular, the risk description has been updated as the additional new burdens funding made available to local authorities facing additional expenditure in meeting statutory duties came to an end in March 2025. So at the moment, this represents a potential risk, cost risk of 2.8 million per year for temporary accommodation and resource funding. We also have in terms of asylum accommodation spaces around Crawley, tend to be sort of supporting single adult males, most of whom will have no entitlement to accommodation support following the granting of their decision. However, they'll be entitled to be supported through the homelessness service under the relief duty. And obviously this will also place significant strain on an already pressured service. So therefore the inherent risk score has been increased from 20 to 25. And in terms of mitigations, these have also been updated. So we are continuing to lobby for a review and extension to the funding, which is happening at a ministerial level. However, there's no confirmation as to whether this funding will continue into 25-26 financial year. But we must remember that we did obviously have some funding secured for the mass arrival events that happened in June 2024, which did help mitigate most of the costs. And this funding has been extended and is available for any future events. As the number of new arrivals has dropped, with most new arrivals presenting to other local authorities, the focus of the Chagosian response team is obviously to issue homeless decisions on the backlog of overdue cases. So obviously we're trying to utilise that additional capacity to help with the backlog. And obviously regular visits to asylum hotels are being undertaken by officers to support hotel leavers in advance of their eviction. However, we must note that obviously the reduction in notice period issued by the government from 56 to 28 days is obviously then having an impact on the team to engage with all of the hotel leavers before they are evicted. So as such, the residual risk has been increased from 16 to 20. So in essence, your request to increase the risk has seen the overall risk increase anyway. So that's just to sort of reflect the change there. Another risk change, risk 6, which is now based on the impact of lifting water neutrality. So as you'll be aware, Natural England confirmed at the end of October that the water neutrality position statement of 21 has been withdrawn. So now the risk has been updated to reflect how we can move forward now that the restrictions have been lifted. So as such, the risk description now reflects these moving forward. So particularly the inability to successfully manage the backlog of planning applications, because obviously we'll have a significant backlog. And there's also the possibility that third parties may seek to legally challenge planning decisions on the grounds of the need for water neutrality, which where water neutrality would have previously been required. But however, the inherent risk has been reduced. So based on the previous risk, it was 16, but with the update to the risk, it is now down to 12. And in order to help with the mitigations for this risk, we are seeking to second a junior strategic planning officer into the development management team for 6 months to increase capacity. The team are also looking to increase senior officer capacity and looking to secure external funds to help with this. We're also looking at potentially having longer planning committee meetings, or a temporary increase in the frequency of these meetings is also being considered to deal with the increased application numbers. And as such, the residual risk score has reduced from 12 down to 6. What I'll also point out is that the risk appetite has remained as cautious, and the reason being that as we are at the start of what is going to be a huge workload full of complex applications, we will review this over the coming months with a view probably to change it to mindful, if notable, progress in mitigating the impact of the withdrawal of water neutrality is being made. So although overall the scores have come down, we've kind of kept the risk appetite as cautious for the time being, but we will see how hopefully the mitigations are working in practice, and we can be satisfied that can come down. So just to sort of clarify on that point. And then just sort of picking up another point that was raised by the committee at the last meeting. So that was in relation to risk 13, which was the recruitment, retention and succession planning. Again, the committee expressed that the residual score for the risk should remain at 12 and not 9. Again, as we believe that the council would have some recruitment and retention issues as a consequence of local government reorganisation. corporate management team obviously have taken that back. We have reviewed the risk, but at this point we aren't going to change the residual score until after the staff survey, and we have the final results for that, which I think we've just had them very early this week, so we'll have time to sort of reflect on those results and see if there's anything that tells us. There were some questions added around local government reorganisation as well, which obviously wouldn't have been in the previous survey. So we'll be taking those results back, reflecting on that, and then with a view whether we need to reconsider the risk score. So at this point, we've left it as it was, but we will we'll consider that going forward and keep an eye on that. Also, the HR and OD manager will also be obtaining some further data on retention rates as well, and seeing if there's any correlation there in terms of local government reorganisation. So we took that back, but obviously at this point we've just left it as it is for the time being, subject to further review. Those were sort of the main points to bring to your attention. There have only been some other minor updates, but that hasn't really affected the overall scores. Those were sort of the main areas where we've seen sort of a shift in direction of travel for the scores. But obviously, if there's any further questions, then happy to take those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. One of the recommendations on this report is to determine whether there are any matters in relation to the register which the committee would like to be drawn to the attention of the chief executive or the cabinet. With this in mind, if you'd like a specific comment to be brought to their attention, please make this clear during debate, and Ms will make a note of this when it comes to the vote. I will now open this discussion up to the committee. Please indicate if you'd like to ask a question. So, yep.
Thank you. That was, you went through that very thoroughly. I wondered if CMT has considered, I didn't see a risk on cybersecurity there, and you often do see that in risk register, and I wondered if that was something that's been debated by CMT.
We do actually have a risk 8 disaster recovery, which looks about data breaches, so it would consider any potential hack under that risk. So we do have that covered in the strategic risk register, and we're currently satisfied that we do comply. That was updated following some, obviously back in May 2025, there was the attacks on Co-op and Marks and Spencer's. So then we obviously did further increase sort of testing on that. So we do have it there as a risk in terms of any potential threat of hack or downtime that might affect services. So it is currently represented under risk 8.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. Yep.
Quick observation and a quick question. It's good to see that the mitigation measures are being put in place with the planning committee for extra meetings possibly and extended meetings. Now the dam looks like it's about to burst on planning applications with the end of water neutrality, so I couldn't help that one. Really, I'd like to ask quickly about the visiting of people whose support from the government is about to end, the 56 days to 28 days. I know that time frame has reduced. You suggested our officers go and visit them to talk to them about or try to go and visit them. Do we receive any Home Office support with that? Does our housing department receive Home Office support with that? Because it is essentially an additional task, I guess, as a council that we're going to have to undertake.
That's a good question. Obviously, we've not received any funding for this year, and we don't know whether we're going to get funding for this year. They did include an administration element, but I don't think that was sufficient to cover all our costs.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions?
Well, if I could follow that, then I think I would want that put to taken further, that we actually seek additional support on that. If we are going to support people whose support in the area is going to end, then we should be seeking additional help from the Home Office with regard to that. We all know how stretched our council finances are, and we should be getting help with that. And
Okay.
Obviously there's nothing our leadership can do, but they can ask the question.
Okay. So would you want that to be drawn to the chief executive or cabinet?
Yes, but as I say, it may be limited what can be done, but we can ask the question.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to take a vote on that. That's great. Right. So, are there any other comments? Okay. Well, if there's not, then I would like to make some. First of all, thank you for the report. It's actually a very interesting read. I have two things I would like to ask about. So on 7.3, the lifting of water neutrality, obviously planning applications have been frustrated for a long time due to this, and the new guidance from the government is obviously welcome to try get these planning committees seen and considered. Is there because we don't know how many will come and there might be a massive overload, is the management of this risk, is this able to be maybe reviewed more often depending on how many applications we get, because we could be overflooded with delayed applications that weren't able to make it due to the previous government's guidance. So is this something that can be reviewed more often now, that like case by case basis depending on the situation that we find ourselves in?
I think the only thing I can say is that obviously our risks are, it is a live document and CMT do regularly review it. It's a standing item on CMT every fortnight. So obviously it's always being looked at. So I think as this sort of risk plays out and we understand a bit more in terms of the numbers, I think that will obviously reflect if things need to change. I think that's really sort of the safest thing, is that we, CMT do look at this on a regular basis, and if anything should change, it will be picked up and addressed through here.
Okay, that's good to hear. Also on the local government reorganisation, I do note that you are continuing to prepare for whatever decision comes. So is this obviously something that's looked at fortnightly and something that will be adjusted when the time comes right, and we know what situation we're going to be in with the new authority?
So yeah, likewise with the risk register, it is reviewed every fortnight. So as things should change, then obviously that will be reflected in the register, because it's a live document. So yes, only once we know more, then that can be reflected here.
Great, and if that could be brought to the committee, that would be great. Thank you. All committee members have had the opportunity to speak, so there are two recommendations set out on the report, and I will deal with those separately. I move recommendation 1, that the committee confirms its satisfaction with the risk management arrangements. Can I have the Vice Chair second this, please? Yeah, thank you. So can I have a show of hands for the motion, please? 4. Okay. All those against? I guess I have to do it. Okay, great. Okay, the motion has been carried. So yeah. So with regard to recommendation 2, comments were made during the debate, specifically by Councillor Russell, which need to be put to a vote. So your comments were about extra support from the Home Office. Is that correct?
It was to ask if we might be in a position where we could seek additional support for the additional work that is placed upon us and our officers, given our financial condition at the moment.
Yeah, great. So I therefore move that those comments be drawn to the attention of the Chief Executive or Cabinet. So can I have the Vice Chair second this, please? Okay, great. So can I have a show of hands for this motion? I guess, can I? Okay, great. That motion is carried and those comments will be passed on and I will make sure of that. Thank you very much. So what's the next one? Yeah. Right, back to 5. Great. Yeah, okay, so we are now on to the item of the agenda that has to be postponed. So we will now move on to the draft audit results report for the year, which ended on the 31st of March 2025, and this starts on page 13 of the agenda pack. So I will ask Hassan Rohiman, partner at Ernst & Young, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for being late for the meeting. So I'll take members through our audit results report, which we will issue as a final version on completion of the audit. What I will do is just take you through the executive summary, and then happy to take any questions which members may have. On your page 17 of the report, it sets out the context for the audit and outlines the measures to address the local audit delays. As members will be aware, we issued a disclaimer opinion on the Council's 24 and 22-23 financial statements under the arrangements to reset and recover local government audit. For the 24-25 audit, we've undertaken our audit, predominantly completing all of our planned procedures, and within the appendix of the report, you'll see the areas which it highlights where we've got our assurances in relation to areas of the accounts. However, as we've issued a disclaimer opinion in the previous year, whilst we've have undertaken significant work, we'll be issuing a disclaimer opinion for the 24-25 audit, which is, and also within the report, within the appendix, it sets out the pathway to moving to a position where, all things being equal, it will be in a position to issue an unqualified opinion in future years. On your page 18, we outline the status of the audit. So we're, in terms of the areas which are outstanding, it's completion of our conclusion and reporting procedures, and also our final review processes. When we're also awaiting the final signed financial statements and signed annual governance statement, after which we'll undertake our final procedures in relation to the audit before issuing our opinion. That includes receiving the signed representation letter. In relation to value for money, we've undertaken our work to discharge our code responsibilities. We haven't identified any significant weaknesses in arrangements, which is a good position to be. If we had identified any significant weaknesses in arrangements, we would be reporting on by exception, in our opinion. Within the report, in section 3 of the report, it outlines provides more details on the procedures that we've undertaken, also what our responses were to the risks that we'd identified, and also the areas of focus. On your page 19 of the report, we highlight that in having undertaken our audit, we have identified some misstatements, audit differences. management have agreed to correct a number of misstatements which were identified, including disclosure misstatements during the course of the audit. However, there were two areas where management have decided not to amend the statements for. The first relates to remeasurement of the pensions asset. So this comes about from, as part of our audit, we receive assurances from the pension fund auditor. They highlighted some differences in terms of the pension fund assets from what was originally provided, in terms of the information which was provided to the actuary, for the actuary to undertake their IS 19 assessment. In respect of Crawley's share of that asset, it would decrease unusable reserves by 850,000. Management decided that's not material, and it is a judgmental difference in respect of the IS 19 assessment. The second area relates to the revaluation of the Crawley Innovation Centre, where gross rent was used instead of net rent in respect to that valuation. That would lead to a difference of 1.16 million. Again, management decided not to adjust for that difference on the basis of the basis of materiality and it being a judgmental difference. So what we would ask is that in the letter of representations, the reasons for, if the committee is in agreement with those two differences not being amended, then just in the letter of representation, the reasons for not amending is just outlined in the letter of representation. In terms of the corrected misstatements, it relates to, again, to valuation of land and building, and management have corrected these errors, which results in a net increase of 4.31 million on the balance sheet. And then there was also differences relating to intangible assets, where costs and accumulated depreciation totaling 0.53 million were omitted. On your page 20, we provide a summary of the significant risks and areas of focus which were identified in our audit plan, and the outlining the status of our work in relation to those particular areas, and further details of the work that's been undertaken. The conclusions that have been reached are outlined within section 2 of the report. I'll move you on to page 22 of the report. So on page 22, we highlight factors that impact the financial reporting and also on the execution of the audit. So there was a improved position from the previous year. This particular RAG rating is new for our reports this year. The reason that we're highlighting these particular areas, because these are areas which contribute to an efficient, effective audit, and also contribute to good financial reporting. So we highlight there where the arrangements were effective, also where we may have encountered particular issues, then we've highlighted those in the explanations and identified the areas for improvement. The key issues just to point out for members of the committee in relation to the areas of improvement relates to the information to support the valuations, which is received from the council's valuer. So some of that is outside the control of the finance team, but I do know that the finance team are looking to work with the valuer to see where improvements can be made in those areas. Then just moving on, the area which I just wanted to highlight for members' attention is in the appendices. So I did refer earlier on to to the work which needs to be undertaken to progress to a full assurance. So that's outlined within Appendix A, and also on Appendix B, we provide as I mentioned earlier, provide a summary of the assurances which we've obtained in respect of the procedures which we've undertaken. So you'll see on pages 51 and 52 of the report, it's a significantly improved position from the from the position which we were in the prior year. And I think we'd like to thank members of the finance team for the cooperation which we've received during the course of the audit. I'm happy to take any questions if members have any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I will now open this item up for debate, so please indicate if you'd like to speak. Do we have any speakers? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for going through the report. I have a few questions. One was to understand your view about the audit differences that weren't adjusted, and what your views on that is. And then, like, also from what you just said, you were saying you wanted in the letter of management representation, and I kind of wonder why you want that, what you're looking to get from doing that. And also, if you could give us some idea if the number of misstatements that you found here is similar to other kind of authorities of this size or not. Is that average or not? I'll stop there. I have a few more.
In terms of the differences, then in relation to the pensions difference, it's not unusual for authorities not to amend for that particular difference, because it is it is one which is a judgmental one, doesn't have any kind of impact on the reported bottom line of the authority. In relation to the valuation difference, then it is below our materiality level, so it won't impact on if we were to be issuing in terms of our opinion, it won't impact on the opinion in relation to a material error within the accounts. And again, it's an area relating to judgment in terms of the valuation. So, we're satisfied in terms of the reasons which management have given for not adjusting. As I said, it wouldn't have any impact on our materiality levels. The reason why we ask for it to be included within the representation is because they are differences which are above our reporting threshold, which we said that we'd be communicating to you. The committee is the body deemed to be those charged with governance. Therefore, ultimately, it's a decision which you should be taking as to whether you, as a committee, are satisfied for the accounts not to be amended for those particular misstatements that have been identified during the audit. And if you agree with the position which management have outlined, then we just ask for that to be communicated in the letter of representation. And the third question was in respect of whether the number of misstatements are how they compare to others. I'd say it's somewhat in the middle. We see authorities where there may well be a lot more differences than have been identified in the audit of Crawley. There are other authorities where we don't identify any differences, so it's somewhat in the middle.
Is that all?
Yeah, just a couple more things.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful, that explanation. Thank you. It was interesting to look at how you were tracking the progress. You used the words in the report that Crawley was behind what was expected, and I guess I'm not completely kind of clear on what that is. And I also found it really helpful, the rating of greens and reds, but, somewhat concerned that reserves, both usable and unusable reserves, are red. And given the high risk of financial sustainability and the concern of Crowley around usable reserves, I wondered like what steps need to be taken for you as auditors to become comfortable for, I guess it's something about kind of understand the unusable reserves and how that relates to the valuation and the issues you have there, but I don't actually really understand the issues around usable reserves and why we don't get comfort on that. So I have those questions, and then I also have one on fee variations as well, which I'll just put out now. You talked about where you've put in for fee variations, and some of those I could understand where they were coming from, but there were a couple which I thought, I'm not sure why this is unusual or different, and it was income and receivables, payable testing, and AGS testing, things that I would have thought were just normal routine ones, and then consultation on a disclaimer opinion. I think maybe I understand that, but it'd be helpful if you could say why that would be a variation and it wasn't in the base fee.
Sure. So, first of all, they're taking the point on in respect of the Appendix 2 and the assurance levels that are given. The reason that the reserves is highlighted as red is because in order to gain assurance on the reserves, you'd need to have assurance on the opening position, and we've got 2 years where the audits have been disclaimed as outlined within the report, within the executive summary. There's guidance that's being issued in terms of procedures which auditors will need to undertake in order to build back assurance for areas where we don't have assurance. Then we're looking to, with those LARIGs having been issued during the year, we'll be looking to undertake those procedures going forwards in relation to our 25-26 audit, as outlined within the plan. The work which we undertook was in respect to the closing balances, so we haven't got assurances for those disclaimed years in terms of the opening position, which is why the reserves and also the comprehensive income expenditure statements also rated as partial assurance because of that position. On the first part of your question, which page were you actually referring to? You said that there was to do with guidance. Page. So is that on Appendix A? The yes, that's right. So what we're looking to outline within that appendix is that where we're looking to undertake all of our work, saying that you're not going to be in a position of getting to an unqualified opinion straight away. So there are procedures which need to be undertaken, which need to be worked through in order to get to that unqualified opinion. So having issued the disclaimer opinion in 23-24, we then undertaken the work that we've planned to do this year. We're in a position where we're still issuing a disclaimed opinion, but the levels of assurances that we're giving have increased from the prior year. We then move to a position where if we're successful in undertaking the procedures to build back assurance, then we can move to a qualified except for opinion, then eventually moving to a qualified opinion and unqualified opinion, and the earliest that would happen would be for the financial year 26-27. So that's what the aim of that particular appendix is. And then in relation to the fees, we have the areas which we're looking to submit this scale fee variation. So in respect of payables testing and AGS testing. So there were some additional procedures that we undertook in those particular areas, which we believe is in excess of what is built in within the scale fee. For all fee variations, they are determined by the PSA Limited, so we'll be putting forward the reasons for the scale fee variation to PSA. We'd also communicate that to management before doing so, and then it will be for PSA to come to a conclusion as to whether that is a legitimate scale fee variation or not.
Right, thank you. Is that all? Okay, great. Councillor Ashraf.
Thank you. My questions were also mainly focused on disclaimer. Some of that you have answered. I think it's the third year running we have a disclaimer of opinion. So on top of that, we have the disclosure where quality of draft accounts and some working papers, they require improvements, and access to key staff also require improvements, errors in PPE valuation, intangible assets, officer remuneration, pensions, there were issues with these disclosures, and then some judgmental misstatements. So first of all, if these issues were not there, would you still have issued a disclaimer?
Yes, we would, because as outlined within Appendix A, so having issued a disclaimer opinion in 23-24, you then not in a position to issue a clean opinion or an unqualified opinion straight away, because what you don't have assurances about the opening balance position. So there are procedures that will need to be undertaken in order to rebuild those assurances. So the issues that have been identified in terms of the misstatements and the areas where there have been where there's potentially scope for some improvements in terms of the preparation or supporting evidence, that's disconnected to the disclaimer opinion that's been issued. What that would do, it would potentially help for a smoother audit and smoother financial reporting process.
But say if we are unable to fix these issues, what will be the situation then? Will there still be disclaimer coming in the coming years? We'll still have a disclaimer?
No, because we'd be reporting on those issues in terms of whether they are, whether they're areas for improvement, or if it was a misstatement, we'd be reporting the misstatements if they're not corrected. If a misstatement was above our materiality level, then that would be an issue for our opinion. So we'd be qualifying our opinion on the basis of a material error. So we'd be reporting on in relation to the the level of differences that have been identified. But I suppose what need to make clear is that in terms of the misstatements that have been identified, the majority of misstatements have been corrected, and management have agreed with those. There are two areas where they have decided not to amend for, and we're satisfied with the reasons that they've given for not amending for those misstatements. So if it was if they were of a magnitude where it might impact on on our reporting, we would have outlined that in our communications to the committee.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, if these issues were there, we might have an adverse opinion or qualified opinion, but the disclaimer, how much of that is driven by the national reset over prior years, and how much of that is within sort of our remit?
So if we'd issued an unqualified opinion in the previous year, and if we had been in a position where we were reporting the issues which we've reported on in relation to the points which you've just identified, we would still be in a position where we'd be able to issue an unqualified opinion. So those issues wouldn't have had a material impact on the opinion which we would be issuing. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
So, and also I wanted to ask, related that to the officers, if we have any improvement plan in place to address these issues, specifically which are related to, identified, which say requires improvement. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I mean, firstly, to say, for us, we've sort of, when I first joined Crawley, which is probably 2 years ago, this audit committee, I sort of said, well, we knew we had improvements to make. And I think this is coming from the 21-22 accounts that we got over the line January of last year, was just been sort of catching up. So we have come a long way. I accept we still have a few improvements to make, working papers in some cases, and sort of timings. They're giving us a bit of time at the end to check things through properly, because I know some of the bits that Hassan's team picked up were bits that we could have spotted ourselves. So yeah, still a bit to do. We've come an awful long way, but I recognise where we still need to sort of do some improvements, but to say certainly we're getting there, so I'm hopeful for next year. I mean, each year we read the audit report and we see where any weaknesses are or areas for improvement, and we focus on those for the year ahead. So hopefully that addresses that.
Is that it, Councillor? Okay. Are there any other speakers? Oh, sorry, I think you were first, yeah. And then Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, on investment property, you've completed all your planned audit procedures, etc. And you obviously noticed about the innovation centre being valued at gross rent and not net rent. But I am aghast a little bit at the return that we're getting on our investment property. It is very, very low at the moment, isn't it? I know the costs have gone up fourfold because of the void periods, but we've got 193,000 net on investment property that's meant to be worth 40 million, and it only got downvalued by 50,000. Are you quite, well, obviously you are happy with your valuation on that? I mean, that return is so much lower than what some, a corporate business investing in property would expect to get.
I think in respect of the returns that you're getting on the investment property, then that's probably a question for officers to answer. In terms of the valuation, then we're.
Well, you're happy with the valuation with that return?
In terms of the valuation, we're happy that appropriate valuation methodology has been applied, and that the valuation is fairly stated, subject to the difference that we've reported. But in respect of the returns, then I think that's you've got there's a distinction between the financial reporting, which is what we're auditing in terms of whether the what's reported at the balance sheet date is true and fair. But in terms of the decisions in relation to the returns that are on that investment, then that's I suppose that's a point for, as I said, for management to answer.
Thank you. Do any officers want to come in? Yeah, thanks.
just to remind members present that the budget monitoring reports are going to OSC next Monday and Cabinet on Wednesday, and I think that would probably be the appropriate place to ask the ongoing questions. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you for that response. Are there any other? Yep, Councillor Russell.
Sorry, at risk of being a bit like a dog with a bone, I'm sure you can understand that councillors are jittery when they get a qualified or disclaimer on the accounts. With another hat on, and I'm looking here at the reserves and the red assurance rating, I'm really just looking to confirm for my own satisfaction, my understanding. It's got the red assurance on it, but in other forums I've sat and seen the Treasury management returns and congratulated officers on the money they've earned with the reserves. But that red is essentially historical and cautionary. And am I correct in that?
So that red is because we've haven't been able to complete our work in terms of rebuilding assurances in relation to the opening position.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that for clarity in my own head.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the committee who'd like to speak? Okay, great. All members of the committee have had the opportunity to speak. The recommendation is that the draft audit results report be received and noted. Is that agreed? Are we happy with that? Okay, great. It's the next one, item 6, right?
That's it.
Yeah, great. So we will now move on to the approval of the statement of accounts for 2024 to 2025, which starts on page 63 of the agenda pack. So I will ask Vicky Baisley, our chief accountant, to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, this is to seek member approval of the 24-25 statement of accounts on the basis of the disclaimed audit opinion Hassan has just been going through. So yes, just to confirm, in terms of the accounts, of course we didn't want a disclaimed opinion, but I think we are in the position that we sort of wanted to be in some ways, in that it's disclaimed because of 23-24 being disclaimed and not being able to have the assurance over the opening balances. So, you know, for us that's as good as we could have hoped for at this stage. And there are those two misstatements in there. So just to confirm that, yes, we agreed, you know, with Hassan that those two misstatements would stay in, one being the pensions one, which has come down from the pensions audit, and the Innovation Centre. Obviously, we have specialist valuers, so it's a judgmental our valuer versus the EY's valuer. So from my point of view, I'm happy to keep those two misstatements in there, and they're not material. So even if we hadn't had the disclaimed opinion from 23-24, they wouldn't, as Hassan has said, they wouldn't have made a difference. So so it's just the statement of accounts, which sort of incorporates the narrative statement and annual governance statement as well, which is in the agenda pack. So happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that report. I will now open up the... I will now open up the debate to the committee. So are there any committee members who wish to speak? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. I think I had asked a number of questions which you provided written answers to, so I won't go back through those. But I did want to make some comments on the annual governance statement. I mean, I can see that it's been signed off, but it's really following on the points that have been raised at the committee and the concern on the disclaimer opinion, and I'm not sure it's drawn out well enough in the annual governance statement. But the fact that Crawley, like most other councils, haven't had a positive opinion on their accounts for a number of years is actually, in fact, a really serious control weakness, because we do not get the assurance that we should be getting from the external auditors over the integrity of the financial statements, and particularly that we cannot get that over reserves, which is so critical. That while it's stated in the annual governance statement saying it's following the progress of, I'm not sure what the term is, local government review or whatever, there's a term in there about the process that's being gone through. But what I feel needs to be highlighted, and it might be too late for this annual governance statement, is because we're going through that process, we actually don't have the assurance. And this audit committee is about gathering assurance from internal audit, external auditor, other regulatories, and other work. And we have a big gap. And I would think you would agree that we have a big gap, that we have no assurance. And I think that should be reflected. It's really nice, I think, how the annual governance statement is set out. And there's 10, I think, clear points, action points within it. But I think an action point also needs to be is we need to get to a point where we have an unqualified opinion and gain assurance. That has to be an action. So even if it's too late for this one, maybe something that could be considered in future years, because it's really not good that we are where we are, but that's where we are along with most other authorities.
Yes, would you like to come back on that?
I guess what we probably should do is just where we've got governance issues, the action plan there is just make reference to the accounts probably, and we can just include that. I think going forward it's probably too late now. Obviously it is highlighted in terms of the front sheet of the in terms of the executive summary. Obviously we have made reference to it there, but I take on board the point that we probably just need to reference that. It is a governance issue, and reference it in the action plan, and just highlight it further there. I think we'll just make sure we do that going forward, because obviously this is going to be an ongoing factor going into when we do the 25-26 annual governance statement. So I think we'll make sure it's referenced there. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? Councillor Russell.
I've got a question, and it's with regard to Appendix C and the annual governance statements. I don't know who it's best to put it to. There's some words in there that mentioned the opinion states that sufficient assurance work, conclusion on the adequacy, and it's in bold, reasonable. I've only just recently escaped a profession that invented a whole new lexicon of language where satisfactory effectively meant not satisfactory and good meant not good enough. What I'm asking is reasonable what it says on the tin? Is that good? Is that what we would want? Is that what we're hoping for? Is there a ranking behind that? Is there something else more aspirational than reasonable? As I say, my experience when I see judgment words has left me horrified over the last 30 years, but I'm just trying to dig out a little bit more on that. Thank you.
It's probably one to put towards our Southern Internal Audit Partnership, because it is the criteria they use in which they do their audit. But reasonable, I think the previous years we've had a reasonable assurance in terms of their conclusion report. So that would have appeared as part of their annual report, probably at the previous committee. So that's just the criteria in which that they use. So I think that means it's all right, but that's probably a question for SIAP in terms of the categories that they use. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when they came in and presented it, yes, I mean, reasonable is reasonable. And as far as we're concerned, reasonable is good. We can place assurance on that.
Thank you. As I say, a previous profession, a previous life, it was never quite what it meant, or the word was never quite what was the subtext. But okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, great. I guess I will speak. I guess it's not a question or anything. It's just a general observation. I note that this report has taken a lot of work, and I think it's important that the committee recognises that and thank the officers for their hard work on that. And I know that this council does have very difficult challenges and very difficult issues to deal with, and I know that the officers do work their best, especially on this committee, to make sure we have a balanced budget and we are prepared for challenges of the future. So thank you. This must have taken a lot of work, so thank you. Oh yeah, sure. And so all committee members have had the opportunity to speak. Is everyone happy for us to take one combined vote on the recommendations as set out in paragraph 2.1 A to C of the report? These recommendations relate to approving the accounts. Okay, no objections, that's great. So a delegated authority of the letter of representations and statement of accounts to be signed, and endorsement of the annual governance statements. So I move that the recommendation set out in paragraphs 2.1 A, B and C be agreed. Can I have the Vice Chair second?
I hear second.
Great, thank you. And may I have a show of hands for this? Okay, great. All those against? Okay. Okay. So that motion is carried unanimously. So thank you very much. Yeah, I guess it's That's fine. Oh, it's the yeah. Page 14. Oh yeah. Right, page 14. So we will now move on to the provisional list of future reports of this committee, which is included on pages 247 and 248 of the agenda pack. So I will ask Ms Matthews, our Democratic Services Officer, to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this list will be an item on each meeting of this committee going forward. The global internal audit standards require that audit committees approve their work programmes in relation to internal audit to ensure that there is good interaction between the audit committee and internal audit. We felt it would be useful to expand this so the work programme includes all upcoming reports, not just those for internal audit. The committee has requested to review the provisional list of future reports, determining whether there are any revisions it wishes to make, and then approve the list.
So thank you for that, Ms. Does anyone wish to comment on the programme? Please indicate your wish to speak. So the programme is there. Everyone's okay with it?
Sorry,
Councillor Russell?
it's not that I'm not okay with it. I think it's brilliant to have it mapped out like that. So it was a comment of thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Sorry. If there are no speakers, I will just move on to the recommendation. So you've all had the opportunity to speak. There are two recommendations set out in the report. I will deal with them separately. With regard to recommendation 1, no revisions were moved. I therefore move that the committee has reviewed the provisional list of future items and does not wish to make any revisions. Are we in agreement? Okay, great. So, recommendation 2, yeah, that one, yeah. Recommendation 2 is that the committee approved the provisional list of future reports. So, are we all happy with that recommendation? Okay, great. So, that's it. So there is no supplementary agenda. Therefore, with the business of the committee concluded, this meeting is now closed at 8:39, and our next meeting is scheduled for 16th of March 2026. So thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye.
If people just bear with me whilst I just turn off the live stream. Thank you.